DJ Leroy.
Night Watchman, how you doing, buddy?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, good. All right, so I understand that the groundhog did see the shadow, so that means that winter should be going away. Is that true?
I don't know. I heard that they caught the groundhog and somebody serving barbecued groundhog somewhere. So I don't know what's going to happen.
See, Night Watchman, why do you do that? Why? Anyway, you know
With
what?
the right sauce, it's very tasty. I hear. Allegedly.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you know what? It's also that time of season when I guess the brown spirits are amongst us, but also other spirits I understand too. Is that correct?
Okay. All right. Well, brown spirits could mean a lot of things, bro.
See, I'm not talking about Frederick Douglass. I'm not talking about that one. Okay?
I saw Sinners, man. I don't want anybody coming back.
Night Watchman, you are ready. I see. You are just ready. Okay.
Right. Exactly. All right.
But having said that,
we're talking about one of our favorite topics, which is
yes.
As we've gotten older, we've had an appreciation for some of the finer things in life, and spirits are certainly one of them.
Definitely. And you know what? There's a woman, she's a returning guest, but she's been on it before, and she always seems to have signature events. Can you bring up Audrey Sanders, man?
Audrey Sanders.
Hello, my dear. I already know that you're going to have some stuff popping for the springtime in terms of outdoor events, correct?
At some point, yes, when it warms up a little for us.
Gotcha. Well, Audrey, so funny. I think a couple of days ago, last week, I was at the Renaissance Hotel.
Yes.
And I was just going over there to meet John, who you guys share a space with. And lo and behold, you're having a tasting and event for Edmond's honor. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
A wonderful woman from out of the Chocolate City, Tracie Franklin. Is she the
Yes.
Hello. So excited to be here.
Me too. And I'm not going to let you say it now, but when you also turn me on to some vanilla.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
A little vanilla orchid, maybe.
Oh, cute, Tracie.
Oh, Tracie! See, Night Watchman, I know you're jealous now. I know this already.
I'm not jealous, no.
Tracie, don't believe it. Do not believe it, okay?
Because I had a chance to taste Edmond's honor before you did, because our good friend Nikki did a tasting in our space, which you did not attend.
Wow. Well, okay.
Back in September.
That was in 25.
So Bob is saying it's old news. Come on, Night Watchman. He's like old news.
Okay.
You try to act like you had the news flash, man.
You know what? A Night Watchman, I see how this is going. I do. So without further delay, but not only brown, but I also have some other stuff going on. I even say, wow, tequila. Can you bring up Andrew? Come on now.
Hey.
All right.
Andrew, what's up, buddy? There he is. Go ahead.
He's on the move.
Yes, indeed. Where are you going? Are you dropping off some bottles, some cases? Did we just lose him? I think we did. So now, you know what? Without further delay, you know what? I think I'm going to go to you, Audrey.
Okay.
Tell me about
he's coming back.
He's back.
Oh, he's back. Great.
Okay.
There we go.
Andrew, we may have to say, have you stay in place. Don't move.
Okay.
He can't stop in the middle of the road though, so that's what you got to do.
Pull over.
Don't get a ticket on our
Please
account.
don't.
Yeah, exactly. So
all
how you doing, buddy?
send it to Curtis Harch.
Wow. Okay. Like I said, Andrew, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm super excited. And it feels like my career in this industry has come full circle, because my first territory after 16 years in the business was Upper West Side, including Harlem.
Wow.
So for me to be on a show that represents the community, it's a lot. It means a lot to me.
Beautiful, beautiful, brother. All right, well, we're going to come back to you. And I want to start off with you, Audrey. Audrey,
Sure.
now, I know that you're coming from a finance background. You're a banker, right? But yet, you are known in the Harlem community as the woman with the events, typically featuring a brown spirit and maybe even cigars. Tell us about your origin story with that.
Okay, well, I am in wealth management, and part of how I built my business and my practice, I would host events for my clients where I would invite them to bring their friends, people that I can work with in the same manner I work with them. And in order to get people to come out, I would host different spirits events. And I've been doing this going back, I want to say like maybe 2000, 1999, when I was in Short Hills, New Jersey. And I would host an event. And this was back in the day when, remember Johnny Walker and the Colors?
Yes.
And we had the Scotch guys with the kilts, and they would come out and do a presentation for my clients. And it would always be a financial component to that presentation. And that was basically how I built my practice. So I developed relationships. And when I came to Harlem, I realized that there's a whole space of spirits, wines that are owned by people of color. So my focus recently, over the last maybe 4 or 5 years, has been to show my clients brands that they may not have heard of. And that's basically what I do. In fact, I have an event next week. It's
next week. When is that? What date are we talking about?
February 26th at
Gotcha.
Lieber. And we won't mention the brand because they're not on the radio, but it has a history. It's going to be very educational. So most of what we do is educating people on the brands and the opportunities. They get to experience a brand that they may not have heard of. And eventually they become consumers of that brand. Like Edmond's Honor. I remember when we first started with Edmond's Honor last year, Mocha, my partner with the Harlem Liquors in Harlem, or Adam Clayton Powell, right at 135th Street, right next door to Popeyes, he brought in cases of Edmond's Honor, and we've been, hosting events and giving people exposure. In fact, Edmond's Honor was at the Boys and Girls Club cigar event last spring.
Yes.
So it's just, again, information, education, everybody has fun. I build my business. People get exposed to new opportunities. And it's just been such, I want to say it's just been such a blessing to be part of brands that are growing and, where people can have a great evening and a nice opportunity and a great experience with a brand.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that. Now, of course, Tracie, I certainly know about the fact that there would not be a what's that? What is that? I'm trying to remember. If there had not been of course, nearest green, right? That there would not be a Jack Daniels. So Audrey mentioned it a couple of times. Do tell me the origin story of Edmond's Honor.
Happy to, absolutely. And it starts with the vanilla orchid. So vanilla starts as an orchid, which is something that not a lot of people realize. When you do, it's kind of a subconscious thing, because when you see vanilla pods, there's always that white flower around it, but people don't know really the meaning of that. So vanilla actually starts as that white orchid, and it's indigenous to Mexico. When that orchid was taken out of Mexico, there was no pollinator to turn it from the flower to the vanilla pod. Only in Mexico is there a little bee that knows how to pollinate it. So for 300 years, botanists were trying to figure out how to pollinate this vanilla orchid. And in 1841, a young botanist by the name of Edmond actually figured out how to use a blade of grass and his thumb to pollinate that vanilla orchid. Now, Edmond taught this technique to the island of Madagascar. It spread all over the island of Bourbon that he lived on. And Madagascar became the #1 vanilla market within about one generation. And they still are today.
Nice.
Now, vanilla orchids have spread all over the world. And every time you see a vanilla bean, it is because that vanilla orchid, that one flower, was hand-pollinated using the technique Edmond Albius himself created. So
Wow.
Edmund, when he was freed, actually chose the last name Albius, which is Latin for white, to honor the color of the flower and this puzzle that he cracked. So we are so excited to be able to honor Edmund with a bottle of bourbon that is finished in vanilla extract cask.
Wow. Now
So
watch
that's
me.
an origin story.
Yes,
Oh.
yes, yes.
And I have to compliment you on your earrings.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you, right?
Yeah, yes.
I'm
Very
on
nice.
theme, friends.
You're
I'm on
on
theme.
brand.
I
Absolutely.
love it.
Absolutely.
And Audrey, were you holding up something? What were you
I
holding up?
certainly was.
Yeah, so
Oh.
one of the wonderful things about this brand was I was able to actually, like, we are basically telling that story on the bottle. So you have that the outline of the orchid, you have the hand that's holding it, and then you have Edmund's name. So vanilla starts as the orchid, it is hand pollinated, and that technique was created by Edmund.
Beautiful, beautiful. Oh my God. So Andrew,
Yes.
what you got there? I understand that you have a couple of brands in the car there. Is that true? Tell me what you got
Yes,
there.
I do.
Mhm.
So I am the Metro New York and Long Island district manager for Lieber Fine Wines. They import and distribute all these brands.
Mhm.
And Audrey and I were talking about the knowledge of tequila. It's that it's the message not going across properly. So you wonder why the big brands are in the head front. It's just because of promoting, but that doesn't mean they're great tequilas. So, for example, I like.
And hold on, Andrew. Hold on 1 second. Well, now Audrey, are you holding?
This is one of his brands,
Love it.
and I already have a case and gave it out to friends. And this is going to be one of the brands, one of the expressions that will be part of our tequila school that's coming up in April.
Okay. Well, hold it now. Well, do tell now, Andrew. Tequila school, explain.
Okay, so first of all, when it comes to tequila, we need to know what is tequila, what are the characteristics, and what is an expression. So let's go to the most important one is the expression. People look at the color of a tequila and say, oh, is it a flavor? Is it a style? But we consider it an expression. So it starts as blanco, which means the agave is taken, is distilled, and then it has no wood contact at all, keeping the clear color. But it does come as it's cooked, it's distilled, and there's different ways of cooking, but it is a very muddy water, and then they finally distill it through to become blanco. So without a good blanco, the rest of your portfolio cannot be good. And what makes tequila properly made is the water source. You have a very good water source, doesn't matter if the best agave in the world, it's not going to come out with the right integrity. Then the second thing is that the agave must be older than 3 years old. There's a lot of big brands that are using younger and doing unethical things to get the flavor profile to do mass production. So then that's why people start complaining about why I have a headache or why I don't feel so great the following day, is because what they're not using the enough years on their agave, because just like any plant or fruit, it needs to mature, but it's a certain point that it matures. So the cubic sugars are there naturally versus trying to infuse it some way. And then from there is the cooking process. If you've done ceramic and metal or wood vats, and then when you want a different expression, then that's when it shows all the oak, where they use a lot of whiskey bourbon barrels. So enjoy the style or which uses bourbon barrels with. It's just a matter of age between reposada, añejo, and extra añejo.
Okay. Thank you for that. You know what? One of the things that I'm kind of thinking here, Tracie, when Andrew was mentioning, of course, I said the flavors, the expressions, whatnot. In bourbon, are we talking similar things? Tell me.
Well, what I love about bourbon is, first, it's the spirit of America. So it can only be made in the United States. So that's one of those things that, like, this is very much quintessentially that base of our country. The rules and regulations around bourbon are just as stringent as they are around tequila, possibly a little bit more so, in that it must be made in America. You have to age it in new charred oak barrels. It must be 51% corn. You can only distill to 80%. Your entry proof can't be over 62.5%. There are no additives, and it must be 40%. So those are our rules around bourbon. So then we start to add age statements. Now, what people don't realize is typically there's no age statement on bourbon. It is when you want to have a straight bourbon or Kentucky bourbon. So those additional, So straight bourbon has to be at least 2 years old. And if it's under 4, it'll say that how old it is on the label. If you pick up a bottle, it says straight bourbon and there's no age on it, it's a minimum 4 years old. So for Edmond's honor, because I'm such a whiskey nerd and fan and total fanatic, I wanted to ensure that we were using a high quality bourbon first, right? Gotcha. So we are using an 80% corn so that I can really have the vanilla that's in American oak. I can have those vanillin shine on top of that beautiful corn. We're then going into American oak casks for a minimum of 4 years. So also, again, extracting all those beautiful flavors. So we're starting with a really rich bourbon. And then going into French oak, Madagascar vanilla extract cask that I have shipped from France.
Wow.
So those casks are incredible. The flavors that we're pulling out of there, not just the vanilla, which is so much more diverse than people think. When people think about vanilla, they're always just like, oh, it's plain, it's boring, it's just sweet. But there are layers of chocolate and cocoa and cinnamon and citrus and honeysuckle and sandalwood, all because of vanilla is truly one of the most complex flavors in the world.
Wow.
So being able to pull that into the whiskey, we've got our vanilla from the American oak, vanilla from the extract casks, and then I add just a hint of Tahitian and Madagascar vanilla at the end to honor Edmond, right? It's about vanilla, so we got to make sure we taste vanilla. But I couldn't do any of that without the base of a really high quality bourbon.
So also,
Tracie, I want to ask you to go back a little bit. How did you tell us that your journey to become a master blender? Because it's obvious that you have arrived there, but I want to tell us, how did you end up where you are now?
Absolutely, because my career has been left, right, sideways, up, down, flipped, and it's wonderful. I actually started in theater. I got my degree in Bachelor of Fine Arts with a minor in business. And I immediately started working. I toured around the world singing and dancing with shows. I've done Hairspray, Color Purple, Ragtime, different shows all around the world back in my early days. But that energy has carried forward with me. One of the things that I realized while I was on the road was that when I drank a high quality whiskey, I could still sing in the morning. So whiskey kind of became my thing. And I really got to know the world of whiskey, which is vast. Whiskey is just a distilled spirit made from grain that's typically aged in oak. When you think about the breadth of that grain, there's so many grains, there's so many countries, there's so many types of wood. So I started to dive really deep into the world of whiskey and realized, honestly, there weren't very many people who looked like me in the world, like in the field, out there supporting, out there educating. So that really became a really strong. It basically became my mission. My mission was to make whiskey more accessible, to bring joy to the world of whiskey. And so I started educating and working for different whiskey brands. I worked my way all the way up to national ambassador for Glenfiddich single malt Scotch, which was an honor.
Wow, okay.
Yes, being able to honor this legendary whiskey company all around the United States was really, truly an honor. But I wanted more. I wanted to be able to produce it. I was already in the industry for over 15 years, just working, teaching, studying, learning. But I wanted to be able to put my little fingerprint on the world of whiskey. So I was able to join the Nearest and Jack Advancement Initiative. And in COVID, I quit working for Glenfiddich and went to study. All over the U.S., different distillers and distilleries opened their doors to me.
Wow.
They allowed me to work. They allowed me to study. They opened their books. They opened they really poured into me the knowledge and experience that they have had so far in the whiskey world. And this was everyone. This was white, black, this was women, men, this was people were just really open in the industry because they wanted to see something different.
And Tracie, I got to find out now, because you mentioned that. Now, certainly we know that if you're doing champagne, you must be from the Champagne region. So in terms of, let's say, bourbon, must it be Kentucky?
No, absolutely not. That is why I had my ABCs, because that is actually a misunderstanding. The highest percentage of bourbon does come out of Kentucky, just because we have the very, very, very large distilleries that are there. But it can be made anywhere in America, including the territories. So you could actually have a Puerto Rican bourbon. You can have a bourbon from American Samoa, right? Yes. So I'm waiting for that to happen, because I'm going to cheer from the rooftops for my Puerto Rican bourbon. Yes. And also, one of the reasons that Kentucky and Tennessee as well are so well known for their bourbon is because exactly what Andrew was saying, water. So they are on top of a limestone shelf. All of the water is highly, it's heavy, it's full of minerals and things that yeast love. So it does a lot to really create a wonderfully delicious whiskey. And so that is why we know Kentucky for sure. But really, honestly, now we can change water. We are really, water sciences have advanced a lot. So we're able to add some of those minerals and things to really kind of subsidize our yeast health and things like that.
Wow. Excellent.
Sorry, I get nerdy as well. Sorry.
What's the difference between whiskey with a Y and whiskey with the EY? Because I can never get that straight.
Honestly, there really isn't. It's one of the ways that you can kind of guess whether it's going to have an E or not is whether the country that it's coming from has an E in the name. It just kind of has lined up this way. So like American whiskey has the E in it. Japanese whiskey doesn't. This really is coming back all the way back, though, into the UK, where Ireland and Scotland were kind of fighting over who owns the right to the word whiskey, whose whiskey was actually whiskey. So once the column still got created, a pot still creates a really thick, viscous, heavy spirit, while a column still has the ability to create something a lot lighter, a lot more approachable. So Ireland and Scotland started fighting over whether a column still whiskey was actually whiskey. So to create that delineation, people in Ireland started using it with an E to say that this is Irish whiskey. This is made on a pot still. Scotland took it out. Now this is a broad, it's a broad storyline. Honestly, the E and without the E has been going back and forth throughout the UK for many, many years. But really, what we were looking at now, it's just it denotes nothing. It is still just whiskey, a grain. Spirit made from grain, distilled in or aged in oak. So just it's a country, it's a choice thing. So you'll see some American whiskeys actually and bourbons here in America that will take the E out. So like George Dickel. And one of the reasons for that is because they believe that their whiskey is of a quality of Scottish whiskey. And so they wanted to kind of have that connection by taking the E out of the name. So it's not any different. And it typically does kind of align with the country that it's coming from and whether there's an E in the name. I'm not exactly sure why that happens.
Oh man,
pretty good.
Yes indeed. So Night Watchman, in terms of, let's say, when we're talking about brands, where they're usually from. So we heard about Kentucky, Tennessee. So then I got to go to Andrew. Andrew, must good tequila be made in Mexico, or tequila Mexico to be specific? Tell us.
It's a great question. So it's same like champagne. It has to come from Jalisco, which is the main distilling area. It's like the Napa Valley of tequila. But now there's another province called Guanajuato, where the tequila that Audrey put up, which is Quinta Penas. So Quinta Penas is like take away my woes or my pains away after some mistakes you made in life. So this is homage to people, Mexicans sipping on stuff and trying to really reminisce on some mistakes they made and want to drink it away. So that's the story behind Quinta Penas. But Guanajuato is a more small province, but what they do is use older agave, better water source, which is the three water sources: rainwater, well water, or fresh water, which is rios or rivers or mountain water. And then they actually slow cook the agave, so you get more of the flavor profile. and more texture into your tequila instead of that burning feeling you do after that first shot you ever had in your life.
Nice.
So, but those are only two places in Mexico, Jalisco or Guanajuato, not to confuse from mezcal, which is an agave spirit that comes from Oaxaca.
Yeah.
Whole different program.
Gotcha. Well, certainly. Okay, I'm kind of thinking in my head. Sometimes I just want to have, let's say, a spirit with a cube, as you've described, Tracie. So I want to know. I'm going to start with you, Andrew. Do you have a good tequila that I can just sip? I don't have to use it in a cocktail. It's just there. It's pure, and maybe I'll cut it with an ice cube. Tell me, what would you recommend?
Absolutely. So I would recommend, if you're into a spirit that has a little more spice to it, I would do a finer reposado or a high proof reposado. Now, high proof, you're looking at 110 proof versus 80 proof. So if it's done well, you feel the heat, but you feel more texture. They are using much higher and older agave. Or then you go into añejo, which is aged. So reposado is aged 6 months minimum. Añejo is aged 1 year minimum, extra añejo into 2 years. So the older it gets, the more contact to the wood, the more textures and flavors. As you go into añejo, it gets more caramelized. So you get some of those baking spices like nutmeg, cinnamon, vanilla, because remember, we're still using all those bourbon barrels, whiskey barrels. So you still get a lot of those flavor profiles if you will get a bourbon or whiskey. So a lot of people that want to try tequila but come from that background of that style of palate, I usually introduce añejos because flavors are more recognizable in añejo because of the barrels and the aging from bourbons to tequilas. And from there, the one cube, what one cube allows is separates the flavor profile from the alcohol. So you're tasting flavors first, not the burn. So that's where the whole one cube comes into play into a lot of these finer spirits.
Gotcha. And Tracie, certainly I see you shaking your head. So definitely you agree with that in terms of, let's say, if it's a good spirit, you don't need to mix it with anything. And maybe one cube or even less neat is the way to go.
I actually say drink it the way you want. I think that I think we've got to be much more we have to really support people on their journey, right? Some people are coming into this being wine drinkers. When you're drinking wine, you're not drinking anything over about 17%. So when you have a cocktail, you're going up to 20%. When you then have neat at 43% or 40% or 55%, all they're tasting is ethanol. So I don't want them to feel like they have to drink it a certain way and then for them to be uncomfortable because they don't typically drink things at that high of a proof. So I'm very much a proponent of drink it the way that's comfortable for you. However, I would love to teach people how to actually drink neat. And that's one of the things that I think is often missed. So your palate thinks that ethanol is capsaicin, which is the same chemical that produces the heat in peppers. So when you have something with a high amount of ethanol, it burns and your mouth thinks it's on fire. But if you hold that alcohol for a little while, let your mouth start to salivate, you actually are building in sort of this immediate reaction that the next time you have a sip, you're going to start to salivate a little bit faster. That's going to bring the proof down on that ethanol, and it's going to allow you to taste more flavors. So definitely taking those really small sips as you're having something neat will help priming your palate before you begin with that first sip, not tasting till that second. But if you are someone who's coming at whiskey or tequilas for the first time and you are a cocktail drinker, wine drinker, beer drinker, feel free to add ice, add a splash of water, maybe a splash of ginger ale, maybe even just in a cocktail that's maybe more alcohol forward. And don't feel bad about working your way up to having something neat or on a rock. Not everybody's ready for that right off the go.
Nice. Wow. Okay. One of the other things I certainly do know, and Tracie, I know you've heard this, in terms of, let's say, a lessening of alcohol consumption nationwide. Is that something that you guys fear, or are you pivoting?
Oh, I think that we are going to, I am glad that people are drinking less. I think that it can be, we know that it does have impact on your health, but it also has impact on your spirit and your joy and your ability to share and open up, right? So in moderation, I think that alcohol is a wonderful thing that can be celebrated and enjoyed. And I think by bringing something like Edmond's Honor, which is such a premium bourbon with these beautiful vanilla botanicals, something that people haven't tasted before, because it's not like a regular bourbon and it's not like a flavored bourbon vanilla at 35%. It is bourbon forward with these beautiful vanilla botanicals that really introduce a new flavor. And I think we have a story behind it about Edmond Albius, and we have real heart and culture that is supporting this brand. So while people are drinking less, I think we're going to be, as well as some of Andrew's like higher quality premium brands are what's going to still going to make sure. I think those are still going to succeed.
Beautiful, beautiful. One thing I got to say to you, Audrey. Okay, so I'm thinking about my spirit, but then suddenly always this particular pairing with, let's say, a cigar. How did that come about? I mean, I know it's not essential, but I do know a lot of folks, especially that are in our circle, they love that pairing. How did that come about? So tell me.
It's just a natural thing. They want to sit out maybe in the back on the deck, on the balcony, on the rooftop, and have a nice drink with a beautiful cigar.
Wow.
And we've done things over at the Harlem Cigar Room with Odin, and it's a beautiful thing to have. Me personally, I'm not a cigar smoker, but I support and I open opportunities for people to have a great drink with a cigar.
Absolutely, and certainly I know Andrew thought he was getting off, but I do notice also them pairing it with some good tequila, anejo maybe. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely, because you from the leaf of the cigar, you have certain notes and flavors that really binds with pretty much any spirit. As long as you know the taste profiles, you start to really entice the enzymes in your palate. And then it kind of just harmonizes. I've also done tequila dinner pairings where you do foods with, and I've been to whiskey ones as well. It's just, if you know taste profiles and you know how to balance the yin and yang of it all, then you have an experience, not a tasting.
Nice. And you know what? One of the things I guess I also have to say, Tracie, is yes, the pairings. For some reason, when I think of a food, I think of a steak, I think about a bourbon. Why is that? I just think.
Well, actually, I mean, one of the wonderful things about alcohol is that it works so well with fats. Right? With fats, with umami, those sorts of things really complement each other and they kind of play off of each other. So you start to get some of the beautiful vanilla, you start to get some of those baking spices that Andrew talked about, that cinnamon, that clove, that nutmeg, but you also have the ethanol that is going to cut right through the fattiness of that steak and allow you to cleanse your palate to then have another bite of that steak and just do it all over again. It's wonderful.
Oh my God. Night Watchman, are you getting this?
Yes, of course I'm getting this. I mean, the experience, they're all about time experiences. In other words, like, you can't rush smoking a cigar. You could rush drinking a drink, but you'd be missing the opportunity to enjoy the flavors, because all this is about just having a more refined palate and really starting to enjoy it. When we're young, young people will just drink anything that will, get them where they want to get there. You
didn't say you're Jägermeister. You didn't say that, right?
I was never my thing, but I did have an occasion to meet the creator of Jägermeister, or the person who brought it to market, which was Sidney Frank, the legendary liquor developer. He developed Grey Goose, Jägermeister shots, sold Grey Goose to Bacardi for like $3 billion. And back in the day, he was also a big Yankee fan. So Curtis, as you know, I was good friends with the former Yankee general manager, Bob Watson.
Bob Watson, that's right.
His son is a business partner and great friend of mine today. So we were invited to have lunch with Sidney Frank at his his offices were in New Rochelle at the time, and they sent a limo to pick us up, take us from Manhattan, and we got there, and he had a whole dining room and a chef in his offices. That's how he was rolling.
He was rolling.
And you know, when you're that rich, you're not crazy, you're eccentric. and he was definitely very, very eccentric. And he had the dining room table, and we got in there, and out of he started rambling on about a song that he used to sing to his wife when he was courting her in the 40s or something. And all of a sudden, some worker bee came from out of nowhere with the songbook and sang the song to him while we're sitting at the table. and so Keith and I are like the two kids in church who are like, okay, we can't laugh. We laughed internally.
Yes.
And it was one of his worker bees sat down at the table and evidently was not invited to this thing. And he got the look, the side eye, and all of a sudden remembered something he had to do. So it was a wonderful experience to meet somebody who was kind of at the top of his game and really figured out. And we can swing this back to the other side of this, because we talked about how to create this thing, but the marketing is really, what takes it from a great idea to a $1 billion property. So I want to hear you, Tracie, tell us about your journey to the billions.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, we are very lucky. We are being led by Miss Erica Pittman is our head of marketing. And honestly, what's been wonderful about this brand is we're starting first with an untold story. We're starting with the ability to really shine a light on culture makers within our community, because that's who Edmond was. So I think really as we were building this, our idea was how do we use this brand to ensure that we are making more Edmonds, or we are ensuring that we're giving support to people who can change the world, who can change flavor, who can change art. So for us, we lean into visual arts, culinary arts, and beverage arts. So people that are playing with flavor, but also visuals to really change and highlight stories throughout the world. And I think that that's really taken our message a lot further than we expected. First, because everyone wants to learn about vanilla and this untold story, but second, because everyone enjoys and appreciates art, whether that's a beautiful fine meal or a beautiful painting. There's so many ways that we connect to art. And I think aligning Edmond Honor, Madagascar Vanilla Bourbon to that world and those change makers has really gotten us a lot of leverage. And we're going to continue to lean into that because we need more artists in the world.
Absolutely.
And you have a beautiful bottle too, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Hold it. Let me see. Yes. Let me get that again. Yeah. Yeah.
See the orchid?
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful bottle.
Yes,
Thank you. That was we're very, very proud.
Nice.
Andrew, I want to throw it back to you. Now, we know in recent years we've seen a lot of celebrities who become partners in endorsing tequilas. How did that occur, and how do we how has that affected the tequila market?
Well, it started where tequila was just slam it down and get it, and then worry about it the next day. But then more and more people start to see the opportunity with tequila, because there's so much agave in Mexico that people start to get into this idea. Okay, it's a good business model. And so the flip side to that is that, for example, I have here Casa Mexico. This is a tequila. Oscar de la Hoya and Mario Lopez's tequila. So, but what it first was a tequila that you couldn't give it away. Celebrities took it and took it to billions of dollars. But now the integrity of those tequilas after they were sold are really not what people want, because now the buzzword is additives. Is tequila have no additives? So let me explain what additives are and what's no additives. So there's CRT, which really regulates what tequila is, but there's a very gray area. If it didn't belong there, it's considered an additive. But if you add something naturally, like vanilla or vanilla leaf, so for them is not an additive, but technically it is. So that's gray area. It's been really going back and forth. So the story of people drinking less is one thing, but now people want smaller families and well-made tequilas or any spirit. So you see the big movement from those larger brands into alternative brands, and maybe it might be celebrity, but the first thing I'm always asked, like, is there any additives? Because additives could be vanilla sprays, preservatives, anything to take a mass-produced tequila and make it at least approachable to taste or sip, where it shouldn't have to be that way. And then you go with the better tequila. So yes, you're going to see a lot more celebrities trying to jump on tequilas or any spirit. Like you have gin as well. But I feel more celebrities are going into better products. Before, it was just launching something and ready to go. So as more and more people look into better spirits, you see more opportunities for smaller houses that really keep the artistry of their spirit to really have a chance in the market.
Beautiful. And certainly, Andrew, you had mentioned that was it mezcal, a derivative or product of tequila. Give me the key. You also mentioned Oaxaca. So I want you to hear the differences between just tequila and or mezcal.
Okay, so mezcal has now become a growing spirit. It is an agave spirit. The agave is a little larger, but it's more into the process. They're doing the old school method where the horse or the donkey is grinding the agave, and they're camp frying, cooking this agave. They usually own the head. So the agave has the head, the tail, and the heart. The heart's where they use, but you get all smoky flavors. And now they have different expression. Espalding is the youngest of the mezcals, where you get a little bit of citrus, a little bit of smoke, but you feel almost like a glaze of the textures in the mezcal. So now, as people get into finer bourbons and whiskeys like Tracie has explained, now people say, okay, what's the next level for tequila? I go ultra aged, but now you still have a texture feeling, a taste feeling. And since so many people do smoky whiskeys, now mezcal is your new alternative for smoky tequilas.
Wow. Very
and
nice.
Actually, may I pop in for a moment?
Absolutely.
Also, what I love about mezcals is that you actually, so you mentioned espadín, which is the most popular of the agaves that's typically used in mezcal, but there's a whole world of agaves in Mexico, and mezcal explores those. So I love that you're actually able to really, almost like with wine where you have the varietals, you have kind of that going on as well within mezcal. So I love that.
Excellent.
So what is this mystique between, let's say, bourbon cask, whiskey cask, and wine? What has there always been this relationship?
Well, it actually goes back to just barrels. So barrels were really useful items. They have been around for hundreds of years and were used to move and store and ship so many different types of things that they just became kind of this catch-all. So you would ship all of your nails across the country, empty out that barrel, and then you would put your wine in there and ship it back across the country.
Wow.
Barrels were used for so many different things. But as we started to really build out the spirits industries and the wine industries, we were also using those barrels, not just for transportation, but we started to realize that the flavor impact that was happening. A lot of this is coming from Europe first. There's lots of stories about cognac and brandies being aged in those oak barrels prior to coming over to America, where we have our charred oak, which is essential for bourbon. And we know that wines as well, we want to do that fermentation process inside of those barrels. They needed a place for that fermentation to occur. And while it was sitting in those barrels, it was also extracting those flavors. So once we realized that oak imparts really beautiful flavors, that the oak itself is actually malleable, so you can make it into a barrel that it's strong, it's not going to break. They became an essential part of whiskey, of wine. And then we started sharing, right? Because it was cheaper for me to get a barrel from a vineyard that had already used it than to get a new one. So we then started changing within our industry. So cool. Oh, I'm going to use these wine barrels from this port that was shipped from Portugal into the UK. I'm going to put my whiskey in there. We're going to ship that whiskey off to America. America is going to dump that. They're going to take that barrel. They're going to char it, put their bourbon in it. So it's just this really wonderful industry that we've created. And now, because bourbon is such a high producing product and it has to be going into new barrels, we now have a secondary market where those barrels are going for rum, they're going to cognac, they're going to Mexico, because they can't be reused in the United States.
Wow. Yep. Wow. Yes. Night Watchman, I saw you flinching for something. Is that correct?
No, it's not.
Okay. You know what? I'm moving on.
Well, but I do have I want to go back to Tracie and just talk to us about your journey. You were a performing artist. Now you're kind of a scientist. You know, you had to learn all these processes. So tell us about that transition, because
So I've always been a nerd. So throughout school, I was in the gifted and talented education. I did all of what were the when you took your courses in high school, your college classes and science, right? So I've always loved science, but I also love to perform and tell stories and really take people on journeys. And I just felt like I had to choose. So I chose theater. But as I started to really dive into the whiskey world and the world of spirits, I realized, oh, there's a path back to chemistry, a path back to biology. And so during COVID, as I was studying, I actually took a certification called the General Certificate of Distillation, which is used by a lot of large distilleries in Scotland to train their workers.
Wow.
I took that and realized, oh, wait, this is actually a really great program. I have learned something. So let me go ahead and get the diploma. I don't recommend that, friends. If you do not need 3 years of some of the hardest study, for me, not being a science person, not being an engineer, it was incredibly difficult, but it was also one of the most rewarding things I have ever done. I've learned more about spirits, the making of spirits, the rules, the technology, the traditions behind spirits from that certification that I got, my diploma in distillation, than I ever expected. And I'm so grateful, because now I get to use that knowledge and the knowledge that I got from all of the people that have poured into me throughout my career. I get to give that back to all the brands that my company invests in. So the larger company that is part of Edmond's honor is called Pronghorn. And our goal is to diversify the spirits industry in all ways. So we first focus in on education, mentorships, internships, and job placements. Secondly, we have a VC firm that invests in diversely owned spirits, because it's really hard for women, veterans, people of color to get money.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to say, that you are definitely a minority in those particular rooms. What was it like breaking into that scene and looking around?
Well, you know what was so interesting about it wasn't the people that actually had the power. It wasn't the brand owners. It wasn't the people making it. It wasn't the ambassadors that ever made me feel uncomfortable. It was the other consumers. It was other people that supposedly loved these categories, but they had kept information gate-kept for so long, believing that only certain people were worthy of belonging in this single malt Scotch world and these sort of things. Like, they had built this up to become something so much more than it was, that then when I went to Scotland to learn, and I was like, oh, I'm this weird black girl going to Scotland, and they were like, you are an amazing black woman who loves Scotland. We love you. So it really kind of opened my mind to the fact that we build up cultures around spirits and things that we don't know. We build up these walls to make them more important or more or to just kind of signify a specific worthiness, when in the place where it actually comes from, it's just whiskey. They were like, wait, it's just whiskey. So it really taught me to look at, where are we doing that in other places? Where are we doing that with food? Where are we creating these cultures that are exclusionary? I want to ensure whenever I see that, I am flipping that script and creating inclusion, building a bigger table, putting a seat for somebody else. And by becoming a maker, I've been able to add my palate to the world, right? I've been able to create a whiskey that sits on my palate in a way that I don't think we've seen before. I don't think we have something that's kind of using flavor in a nuanced way to really honor a legend, right? To honor an ancestor. So I feel really excited to be able to continue to create and to support all of those small brands that are part of Pronghorn and help them create and bring their passions and their flavors to the world.
Beautiful.
I feel very lucky to do what I do.
Nice. Well, I guess one of the things I'm looking out of the landscape, I do remember when we had Black travelers traveling across the U.S., when we had the Green Book. So I just want to know, for Black and brown spirit makers or creators, is there such a Green Book? Tell me. Anybody?
While there's not a Green Book, there are many people who are doing the work to really like kind of consolidate and talk about all the different brands that are out there. So your friend Charles is on Instagram. He actually has a web platform, an actual e-commerce page that supports Black and brown spirits, and so you can find a lot of them there. I know with Pronghorn we're looking to build out our portfolio as well. We invest in over 30 different brands, so building out our e-com so that you can also find things there. But really, it's a quick Google search to find hundreds of wines and spirits and brands that are supported by diverse communities with a passion and a love that I don't think you see everywhere. And as people are choosing to drink less, drink things that matter, drink things that are telling stories, drink things that are really going to move the needle in a way that matters.
Okay.
Or you could just ask Audrey Sanders.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. There are people like Audrey. Yes.
You heard that, Audrey. Yes.
She's doing that work. Thank you, Audrey. We truly appreciate Audrey because she has been doing this for a long time. As soon as she realized that there were brands out there that are not getting the shine, that are supported by people with real stories and passions, but who just can't get that leg up because they don't have $1 billion in marketing. And people like Audrey, we are so incredibly grateful for.
Beautiful.
And Andrew, right? He's also bringing on those brands. He's on the feet on the street. That we need that, and we thank
literally right now.
You know, yeah.
And
that's incredibly important.
Beautiful. Speaking of which, so Andrew, now certainly I know about Mocha, absolutely. Right there in Central Harlem, 135th. Okay. Are there other stores? I'll even say restaurants where Black and brown creators who have tequilas or bourbons or wines, for that matter, can show their wares.
Yeah, it's just, it's when it comes to the what we call on-premise, which restaurants, bars, clubs, you'd be surprised how these new buyers are coming in and willing to give it a shot, like give it a taste, like, okay, I want to know more. That era of, you don't have an appointment, I can't talk to you, is kind of pretty much all gone. Gotcha. They kind of left the industry. So I handle 300 counts just on my own, and I cover every borough. And you just got to feel confident and understand the business before you try to make that presentation.
Gotcha.
And know the steps. But everybody has an opportunity now. I have not. If they say no, it's probably because of the wrong timing. Versus I don't want to do it. So every person that wants to share their message. And I want to also give credit to Tracie because she came from art and now she's doing art. So I feel she never left her love, but the way she articulates creates a vision in your head. Like she's painting a picture of what the message should be about that whiskey. So we need more people to explain to people how tell the story, but do with artistry and color versus those geeky words you use in a book. Because as I'm continuing to study Master of Wine, the reason why I didn't go to the Somm school is because that's what they do. They try to go over your head with customers and force you to get the best stuff, but becomes opinion in restaurants. I want to be able to send the message between the harvest or the cultivation to the consumer. And I feel that message is too spotty. There's not a bridge that harmonizes everything.
Beautiful.
Well said.
And I guess one of the things, and Tracie, you can weigh in here now. Now, of course, we ended up at the hotel, the Renaissance.
Yes.
I just want to know, is Edmond Honor already there, or is this their first touch point with you guys?
Of the Renaissance?
Yes. Yes.
I believe that was our first kind of launch at that particular location. But we have had really good success throughout New York, and we have a few wonderful locations in Harlem.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Brooklyn. But what we really need, and I think this is something Andrew will speak to as well, is if you know some of these smaller brands, buyers are willing to bring them in if they know there's people that will support it. So if you can be as to support us, to support the baby brands, going to your favorite restaurants and bars and stores and asking for the particular brand, because they can bring it in, but if they don't know that it exists, or they don't know that there is actually a following behind it, they're not going to support it. So we really need people on the ground. When you hear about Edmond, when you hear about the Kita, when you hear about all of these smaller brands, go and ask your local bar, ask your restaurants, ask your local liquor stores if they can bring those in and support, because that really makes a huge difference for us. So while we definitely have a good footprint, it can only get better.
Beautiful. Night Watchman, you see the time, you know what we got.
Yes. Lightning round, yes.
Okay. Night Watchman, you kick it off. And this is going to be a look into the future, what you guys have going on, what we should know about. Who you want to start with, Night Watchman?
Let's start with Andrew.
Okay, Andrew, you got it, brother. What can we expect, man? What should we look for in the future, or the warm coming months? Go ahead.
Tequila.
Well, when it comes to tequila, it's all about Cinco de Mayo. We're going to start playing Cinco de Mayo events, and you're going to see a lot of promotions within different brands. So I know with Casa Mexico, which is which Oscar del Mar Lopez, they just launched their high proof reposado.
Wow.
So this is something interesting. And then Cristalino, which is also a new category, which is reposado, which we just saw. Charcoal filtered, which gives you a smooth, cleaning finish. But then you have brands like Painted Donkey that are trying to get into the kosher market.
Wow.
Kosher markets are drinking tequilas. They're drinking whiskeys. No more this vodka, no more this type of fancy wines. They want to drink finer spirits. And now these smaller brands are just, listen, let's make it kosher, where it feel, because when kosher market, as long as it's not flavored, they can drink it, but they have their stamp. It's really work. So you're going to see a lot of more social media stuff with these brands. With Quinta Penes, they are going to do a major launch in March as well. And then we have the school with Audrey, where we can really expose these brands for Harlem as well. And then we discussed more things going along. But think about the school and think about Cinco de Mayo in your favorite restaurant near you.
Ooh, all right. Okay.
That was
Audrey.
great. Uh-oh.
Yes.
Yes.
So what we got going on? What's coming up for the future?
Well, this Thursday, next week, I have an event focusing on a vintage bottles and current bottles of another brand, and I would love for people to come.
What's that? February 26th, correct?
26th, and it's going to be here at WeWork.
Okay.
And it's going to be a total of 6 pours, coupled with North Carolina barbecue sliders. So it's educational. It's a celebration of history and legacy. So I would love for people to come. We also have coming down the pike, the last Wednesday in April is going to be Tequila School with Andrew and his brands. And we are going to focus on the 5 different expressions of tequila and how to pair them with food pairings to enhance the experience. And then, of course, later on down the road in the summer, we're going to have some other things. There are going to be some cigar events. Who knows, maybe some infused. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But the whole point is to educate, have fun, and focus and highlight some of the brands that we know and we love.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Tracie, what you got going? Kick it off. Talk to us.
Yes, absolutely. So I would first recommend that everybody go to Instagram or whatever and follow Edmond's Honor Bourbon. So we have events that happen all over the United States. While I am the master blender, I can't be everywhere. So we've got an incredible team on the ground that is activating tastings and happy hours and art exhibits and things of that sort. So definitely follow Edmond's Honor Bourbon to find out what's going on. Also, I am popping around the country. So next week I'm in DC. I'll be in Miami soon. I'll be all over. But I will be back in Harlem in April, and I cannot wait. So
Yes.
a couple dinners in Harlem.
Okay.
So keep an eye out for that. And hopefully coming back as well for Juneteenth. But guys, look for Edmond's Honor Bourbon. And what's wonderful about the vanilla is that it actually helps. It really does well in cocktails. So you can make yourself an espresso martini, make yourself a ginger mule, and it works really, really nicely. So yeah, I know that that summer's coming, and people think, oh, time to put away those dark spirits, but not Edmond's.
No. It goes quite well also with a Manhattan.
Yes.
One more thing before you go. We don't have to wait until these events come up. You can pop over to Mocha's at 2302 Adam Clayton Powell, and you can buy some Edmond's Honor for the weekend. And you can also get the tequila for the weekend. So you don't have to wait for an event.
Nope.
You can go and pick up some bottles and make your own event happen for you as well.
Beautiful.
That's right, Audrey. That's right.
All right.
Well, Night Watchman, you want to take us home?
You've been listening to Soul Lounge Primetime on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. Also live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. You can always find us on Monday, 5 o'clock in the afternoon on the radio, and 8 o'clock live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. We want to thank Andrew and thank Tracie for sharing your experiences and your passion. Boy, you talk about some passion, these folks. And so we usually ask the question, do they get invited back to the barbecue? But I think we need to flip it. I think we need to go to Andrew and Tracy's barbecue.
Yes.
Right. And Audrey's going to bring those North Carolina sliders that I hear is a family recipe.
You see what you did, Audrey? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
all of y'all are invited back. However, no daggone raisins in the potato salad. Okay?
Oh, come on. You know we wouldn't do that.
No, but we might put some vanilla in the bourbon.
Yeah.